Good morning. Welcome to lesson 74 of A Course in Miracles. This is There is No Will But God's. The idea for today can be regarded as the central thought toward which all exercises are directed. God's is the only will. When you have recognized this, you have recognized that your will is His. The belief that conflict is possible has gone. Peace has replaced the strange idea that you are torn by conflicting goals. As an expression of the will of God, you have no goal but His. There is great peace in today's idea, and the exercises for today are directed towards finding it. The idea itself is wholly true. Therefore, it cannot give rise to illusions. Without illusions, conflict is impossible. Let us try to recognize this today and experience the peace this recognition brings. Begin the longer practice periods by repeating these thoughts several times, slowly and with firm determination to understand what they mean and to hold them in mind. There is no will but God's. I cannot be in conflict. Then spend several minutes in adding some related thoughts, such as, I am at peace. Nothing can disturb me. My will is God's. My will and God's will are one. God wills peace for His Son. During this introductory phase, be sure to deal quickly with any conflict thoughts that may cross your mind. Tell yourself immediately, there is no will but God's. These conflict thoughts are meaningless. If there is one conflict area that seems particularly difficult to resolve, single it out for special consideration. Think about it briefly, but very specifically. Identify the particular person or persons and the situation or situations involved, and tell yourself, there is no will but God's. I share it with Him. My conflicts about money, Johnny, work cannot be real. After you have cleared your mind in this way, close your eyes and try to experience the peace to which your reality entitles you. Sink into it and feel it closing around you. There may be some temptation to mistake these attempts for withdrawal, but the difference is easily detected. If you are succeeding, you will feel a deep sense of joy and an increased alertness rather than a feeling of drowsiness and enervation. Joy characterizes peace. By this experience, will you recognize that you have reached it? If you feel yourself slipping off into withdrawal, quickly repeat the idea for today and try again. Do this as often as necessary. There is definite gain in refusing to allow retreat into withdrawal, even if you do not experience the peace you seek. In the shorter periods, which should be undertaken at regular and predetermined intervals today, say to yourself, there is no will but God's. I seek His peace today. There is no will but God's. I seek His peace today. Then try to find what you are seeking. A minute or two every half an hour with eyes closed, if possible, would be well spent on this today. And that is lesson 74. There is no will but God's. Let me just read Tina Spalding's channelings. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. This lesson brings an important point to your attention. Many of your upsets from arguing with what happens in front of you, whether it's a war, a job loss, a partner doing something you don't like, or children misbehaving. A constant battle goes on between you and things already in play. So we must go to the fundamental issue here of what is in charge of your world. Well, there are many forces in charge of your world, most of them misaligned forces lacking light and love. So they play out their drama, but they are allowed to. You must remember this is a place of free will. This means God allows what you see happening. In fact, You have tremendous creative power and free will. God is not involved in most of what happens on your plane because you have free will. Only when you use that free will to step above the battleground and align with love does the connection and communion felt as love, peace, and spiritual connection happen. You begin to actually feel them. Try it again. You begin to actually fear there might be. You begin to actually feel there might even be a God. In the battleground, it surely looks like there is no God. Sorry, I'm distracted because my dog has figured out how to get into my office. This idea that your will and God's will are in alignment is a very important one, because when you surrender to that which interests you, brings you joy, prompts you toward health and love and happiness, then you align with God's will for you, which is happiness, joy, fulfillment, and experiencing that which you wanted to learn about in this incarnation. That is all guided by your interior world, by your interior guidance system. The idea of withdrawal now is a very interesting one, because that is what you have done. You have withdrawn into the ego's illusory world and do not connect with your true guidance. Darkness and light seem to battle for supremacy. There, the dualistic laws of the lower frequencies apply and appear as a battle between God and another force. As you go down in frequency, the other force seems to pick up more power. This is where the idea of evil or the devil has arisen, but you have merely stepped further and further away from the realm in which God resides, which is love. That is why it's important for you to remember that love, health, and creativity is your will, because they are God's will for you. You do not feel conflict when in alignment. You feel conflict when you try to choose between God's will for you and the ego's decisions. Remember that if there's conflict in the mind, you must look at what you are trying to choose between and ask which one is God's will for you. Again, the clarification process of doing A Course in Miracles is very important, because the ego will indeed try to deceive you into believing that its will is God's will for you. We do not want to belabor this point here, but whenever you have a choice, do not rush. Go inside for 2 or 3 days in a calm contemplation and ask yourself, which one of these two roads leads me toward love, health, and happiness, and which leads me further into separation and closer to fear? I am that one that you know as Jesus, and we will speak to you tomorrow. My apologies for the way that I've been reading. So this is about the fact that we can choose to align ourselves with God's will. There is no other will. And if we are thinking that there is something else, if there is something that is conflicting or brings us stress or strife, then we have to understand that we are not in alignment with God's will. And it's not that we have to make a big choice and choose light or dark, in the sense that if we allow ourselves to align with God, we will automatically choose the only thing that there is, and that is light. When we see awful things happening in the world, we have to remember that we are seeing the outpicturing of fear-based thinking on a collective basis. And so the only way to choose and change these things is to follow love, to choose love, and to focus on the fact that we want to align with God's will. We want the will of love. We want the power of love to help us make every single decision that we make and take every single action that we take. Have a great day, everyone. Talk to you again tomorrow. Sorry, we'll see you again tomorrow.